Okay, I have to start today with a story about Albert Einstein. You know the image, the wild hair, no socks, the absolute genius of the century.
Right. The standard bearer for high intellect. Always the smartest guy in the room.
Always. So the story goes that a reporter once went up to Einstein's wife and asked her a very, very specific question. She asked, "Do you actually understand the theory of relativity?"
Which is a fair question, honestly.
Totally fair. It redefined physics.
It's not exactly like dinner table conversation, no.
Right. And her response was it was perfect. She said, "No, I don't understand the theory, but I understand Einstein."
Wow. That is a profound distinction.
It really is, isn't it? And it frames exactly what we're getting into today. We're looking at that huge gap between knowing facts about the world, or even facts about a person, and actually truly understanding the person you share your life with. We're doing a deep dive into this recording from February 16th, 2026, and it's titled, "Ignorance is Inappropriate."
And the source here is fascinating. It's a talk by a pastor, Hu Kong, who's also called Tiger Strong, and it was recorded in Taiwan. But the date is so important here. February 16th, 2026 was the morning of Chuji.
Lunar New Year's Eve.
Exactly.
And for anyone who hasn't experienced it, calling Chuji just New Year's Eve feels like a huge understatement. It's like, I don't know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the Super Bowl of family duty all rolled into one.
That's a really good way to put it. It is the single most important day for family unity. It's all about the reunion dinner.
So against this backdrop of, intense tradition and connection, Pastor Hugh drops this really provocative idea.
He does. He says that ignorance, specifically, not knowing your partner's inner world, is not just an oversight. It is, and this is his word, inappropriate.
Inappropriate. That's such a strong word choice. It almost sounds like a breach of etiquette, like wearing white to a wedding or something.
He actually treats it more like a breach of contract. He argues that relationships don't fail because of these huge sudden explosions. They fail because of a knowledge gap.
A knowledge gap?
Yeah. People just stop studying each other. They get comfortable, they assume they know everything, and, they just stop looking.
So our mission today is to unpack that gap. We're going to look into the biblical argument he uses, which is surprisingly practical and a really funny but kind of stinging experiment he does with couples.
And some wild statistics about astrology and compatibility.
Yes, and how it all ties into the kind of modern loneliness of the only child generation.
And we'll also get to why a YouTube channel called The Gospel Refrigerator might be one of the best examples of leadership we've seen in a while.
I still can't get over that name. But okay, let's start with the foundation. The pastor anchors his whole argument in one specific text, 1 Peter 3.7. Now, this isn't a theology seminar, but we do need to understand how he's using it.
Sure. The verse tells husbands to live with their wives according to knowledge, or some translations say in an understanding way, and the pastor just latches onto that one phrase, according to knowledge.
He compares it to other parts of life, right? Like, if you're ignorant about traffic laws, you get a ticket.
Or you crash. His point is that in every other area, finance, driving, your job, we all agree that ignorance is dangerous. If you don't know how electricity works and you grab a live wire, you get shocked. The laws of physics don't really care if you meant well.
But in marriage, we tend to wing it. We think, we love each other. The details will sort themselves out.
Exactly. We assume love will just cover up the ignorance. But the source argues that, living together is just physical proximity. You could live with a roommate for 10 years and not know their deepest fears. According to knowledge, it implies an active, ongoing pursuit of data, and he lists specific data points, knowing your partner's temper, their feelings, their needs, their fears.
It's the difference between having a roommate and, having a research subject.
In a good way, yes. It's moving from just assuming to actually studying.
Okay, so he illustrates this with a story from his counseling sessions that honestly made me sweat a little bit.
Yeah.
He calls it the sticky note test.
It's a classic setup. He sits with a couple who are about to get married, so these are people who are supposed to be at their peak connection.
Right.
And he hands them both a piece of paper and says, write down the other person's 3 favorite things.
It sounds so simple.
Yeah.
What does she like to eat? What does he like to do on a Saturday? You'd think you'd know this.
You would think. But the results, at least in his experience, show this massive gap. The prospective bride, she can usually write them down instantly. She has that data file ready. Boom, boom, boom.
And the groom.
He describes the men as often being dumb or stuck. They just freeze, and they realize in that moment that they might know facts about her, where she went to school, her middle name, but they don't know her preferences.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Is that just a gender stereotype? Or is he pointing to a specific dynamic he really sees? Because I know plenty of men who are super detail-oriented.
Oh, for sure. It's a generalization, and he's using broad strokes for a sermon. But in the context of his counseling, he's using it to highlight a phenomenon where one partner often becomes the relationship manager, the one tracking all the emotional needs and preferences, and the other is just a passenger.
The passenger is just enjoying the ride, looking at the scenery, but has no clue how much gas is left in the tank.
Precisely. And Pastor Hu calls this ignorance the wall.
The wall versus the bridge. That was his core metaphor.
Right. He says if there's a topic you can't discuss, if there's a hidden thing or a secret preference you're afraid to share because you think your partner won't get it, you've built a wall.
And walls stop traffic.
Yeah.
Bridges connect things.
And the bridge requires total honesty, which, it sounds nice on a greeting card, but it's terrifying in practice.
Yeah.
He warns that secrets are what lead to emotional rupture. It's not always the secret act itself that destroys the marriage. It's that the secret forces the other partner to remain ignorant. You are forcing them to live in a false reality.
So the antidote isn't just being nicer or buying flowers. It's like rigorous honesty and real curiosity.
It's about keeping the map up to date. People change. And if you're operating on a map of your spouse from 5 years ago, you are going to get lost. You're navigating a city that doesn't exist anymore.
Speaking of maps and getting lost, we have to talk about the astrology segment, because I really did not expect a sermon on 1 Peter to pivot to Sagittarius compatibility ratings.
It's a fantastic detour. It really humanizes him. It shows he's looking at all the angles of personality.
So Pastor Hugh reveals that both he and his wife, who he calls Shimu, are Sagittarius, and apparently that's a bad thing.
According to the star charts he cites, it's a recipe for chaos. He quotes this statistic, and again, this is his anecdote, that two Sagittarians have only a 10% chance of a harmonious union.
10%, that's a 90% failure rate. That's worse than most stars. Why? What's the problem there?
Well, the Sagittarius personality is described as, optimistic, freedom-loving, adventurous. They like to come and go. They don't like being tied down.
So if you have two people who both want to run off and have adventures all the time, they never actually connect. They're just two ships passing in the night.
Or two arrows shot in opposite directions. If everyone is running for the horizon, who's minding the store? That's the tension. But, and this is the key, he doesn't share this to say, oh, astrology is real. He uses it to set up this counter-argument about values.
He pivots to faith.
He does. He admits the personality friction is real. He admits they both like to run wild. But he says, who we become is decided by God, not the stars.
That's the key line for me. It feels like he's saying, your personality, or even your biology, isn't your destiny.
Exactly. It suggests that your shared values can act as a container for conflicting personalities. So even if their natural instinct is to drift apart, their commitment to a common belief system is what bridges that 90% gap.
It's a really hopeful message for anyone who's ever felt incompatible with their partner. He's saying compatibility isn't something you find, it's something you build through a shared why.
Exactly. The stars might say no, but the shared mission says yes.
Which brings us back to the specific mission of the day this was recorded, the Lunar New Year reunion dinner. This is where the transcript gets surprisingly poignant for me.
Yeah, this is the emotional core of the whole thing, I think.
We said earlier this was recorded on Chuxi. Now, in the West, if you miss a big family dinner, it's sad, but life goes on. In Taiwanese culture, the reunion dinner is foundational. It represents lineage, ancestors, the future, everything.
And Pastor Hugh shares this very modern demographic problem. He calls it the dilemma of the only son.
Walk us through the math on this, because it really paints a picture of modern society.
So the pastor has two daughters. One lives in Taichung, one in Taipei. Both of them married men who are only sons, which means those husbands have no siblings to share the burden of caring for their own parents.
I see. So on New Year's Eve, tradition dictates the wife goes to the husband's family.
Right. So if both daughters follow tradition, the pastor and his wife are left totally alone in Hualien. But if the daughters come to him, the sons-in-law's parents, who have no other children, are left alone.
It's a zero-sum game. Somebody ends up lonely on the most important night of the year.
And this is a massive issue across East Asia right now as birth rates drop. The family structure is shrinking, but the traditions haven't quite caught up yet.
So how did they solve it? He doesn't just complain, he offers a solution.
They compromised. They created an alternating schedule. So one year, the couple goes to the husband's parents. The next year, they come back to the pastor.
It sounds so logical, but emotionally, that must be really hard.
It is. He notes that the previous year, they had a full house, 6 people. It was loud, chaotic, happy, but this year, the year of the recording, it's the off year. The house is quiet, it's just him and his wife.
And he mentions hoping for grandchildren by the next time it's their turn.
He does, and I think this connects right back to that Sagittarius point. Here are these 2 adventurous people, now they're sitting in a quiet house, and they're relying on that deep knowledge of each other to get through the loneliness of a holiday without their kids.
It grounds all the advice, doesn't it? He's not just preaching from a mountaintop. He's right in the trenches of modern family life.
And it shows that knowledge isn't just about favorite colors. It's about knowing how to support your partner when the house feels way too quiet on New Year's Eve.
That's a great segue into the practical part. Because he doesn't just leave us with philosophy, he gives homework, the 3 challenges.
These are genuinely useful, I think.
I want to go through them, because whether you're married, dating, or just trying to be a better friend, these apply. So challenge 1, next time you have a free evening, can you guess the top 3 things your spouse would want to do?
This is the audit. It's a test of your internal database. And notice the wording. What they would want to do, not what you want them to do.
And not what they wanted to do 5 years ago.
Right. Maybe 5 years ago they wanted to go out dancing. Now, maybe they just want 20 minutes of silence and a glass of wine. If you don't know the difference, you're operating in ignorance. You're loving a version of them that doesn't even exist anymore.
Okay, challenge number 2. If one spouse isn't good at listening, what specific things can the other spouse do to help?
Oh, I love this one because it flips the script. Usually the complaint is just, you never listen to me. It's an accusation.
It's a command. Fix yourself.
Yeah. But this question asks, how can I help you listen? Maybe they can't listen when the TV is on. Maybe they can't listen right when they walk in the door from work. It turns a character flaw into a logistical problem you can solve together.
It makes it us versus the problem instead of me versus you. Okay, number 3. Can you identify 3 things you disagree on, but can still live happily together despite the disagreement?
This is the agree to disagree muscle. The goal of a marriage isn't to become the same person.
That sounds incredibly boring.
Yeah.
And a little cultish.
And impossible. The goal is happy coexistence despite the friction. If you can name the disagreements, we disagree on politics, or we disagree on how to load the dishwasher and say, that's okay, then you haven't built a wall, you've just acknowledged the terrain.
It prevents those hidden things we talked about.
Exactly. If the disagreement is out in the open, it can't rot the foundation from the inside.
Now, before we wrap up, we have to talk about the gospel refrigerator.
We absolutely must.
Towards the end of the recording, he makes this little housekeeping announcement. He says his YouTube channel, The Gospel Refrigerator, is taking a break.
A 1-week break from video and subtitles.
First of all, Gospel Refrigerator. Does it mean like keeping the good news fresh or preserving it? I'm obsessed with this name.
It's memorable, that's for sure. But the reason for the break is the real insight here. He says the pause is to give the church coworkers and volunteers a proper rest during the holiday.
In the world of online content, that is so rare. Usually the algorithm demands you post every single day. Holidays be damned.
It connects right back to the main theme, honoring others. He's modeling the behavior he preaches. He knows his team is tired. He knows the holiday matters to their families, so he sacrifices content output to protect his people.
He's living according to knowledge. He knows the limits of his staff, and he respects them.
It's such a small detail, but it shows so much integrity. He's not just telling husbands to be understanding, he's showing it by saying, we're going audio only because my people need to sleep.
So if we zoom out, we've gone from Einstein to sticky notes to the loneliness of the only son, and now a resting refrigerator. What's the big takeaway here for you?
For me, it kind of redefines the word ignorance. We usually think of ignorance as just, a lack of facts. Like, I didn't know the capital of France.
Right, an innocent lack of data. Oops, I forgot.
But this source defines ignorance in a relationship as a lack of effort. If you don't know your partner's fears or their current favorite movie, it's not because the information isn't available, it's because you stopped looking.
You stopped studying. You closed the book.
He's arguing that marriage requires active, continuous education. You never graduate, you just keep taking the advanced classes.
And the moment you think, oh, I know them, I don't need to ask anymore, that's when the wall starts going up.
That's the danger zone. That's when you become the stuck partner in the counseling chair. Not because you're stupid, but because you got lazy.
So the challenge for you, the listener, whether you're married or dating or just in a deep friendship, is to ask yourself, Are you assuming or are you asking?
It's moving from living together to knowing together.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought. The pastor said he and his wife have, on paper, a 10% compatibility rating, but they make it work through shared values.
The statistical anomaly.
So look at your own closest relationship. What is that one thing, that friction point, that makes you too statistically improbable? Maybe one of you is a spender and one is a saver. Maybe one's an introvert and one's a party animal.
And then ask yourself, is that friction point a wall that stops you? Or is it just a part of the curriculum you haven't studied hard enough yet?
Is it a deadlock or is it just an invitation to build a bridge? That's the question.
It's a good one to chew on.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We hope you have a thoughtful day, and if you're celebrating, a very happy and well-connected Lunar New Year.
Take care.
See you next time.